Uncontrollable Chapter 1. It's the first day of school. Well, for us. We had to move schools midway through, but that's alright. I'm so excited. I get a chance to make new friends and even explore new things. I can't wait to show off my art to people. Wake up, Star, I say, jumping on her bed. She groans and rolls over before I rip the covers off of her. She curls into a ball, wanting to stay warmer. I roll my eyes and keep jumping until she groans louder and looks up at me. Why? She grabs her pillow and pushes it against her head. Because, I say, jumping just a little less. It's the first day of a new year for us. Come on, you always want to make new friends, and we're finally in a new school. There'll be so many chances to make new friends. I jumped one last time and then jumped off her bed, smiling wide at her. She huffs and looks around. The sun hadn't even risen all the way. It was just barely taking the deep blue color out of the starry sky through our window. She quickly switches her view to the clock on her nightstand. Emma, it's 6 o'clock. We don't even start school for another 2.5 hours. Why did you wake me up this early? She sounded angry. I felt my chest get tight with regret, but I shake my head and force a happy front, trying my hardest to embrace the day with optimism, unlike many other years. Okay, I know it's like super early, but I thought we could talk about things. I could feel my words get caught in my throat. I angrily look down at the blankets on the floor, glancing back at Star, and I see her eyes soften as she smiles at me. I force a smile back as I continue. We could make a good breakfast and pack snacks, and... She holds my hands, looking up at me in a confident and overly optimistic way as her eyes seem to sparkle. I tried to open my mouth to say something, but couldn't seem to get the words out, not like I had anything I haven't said before. It's always a mix of, I'm scared they'll find out, or what if we can't make any friends, or an even more panicked, what if we make enemies? Which Star always reassured me that it'd be okay. No one would find out, we'd make tons of cool friends, and we'd be okay no matter what. Do you think that they'll find out? I mean, it's an amazing idea just to make some friends, but I blurt out, without even thinking. My thoughts become too much to just keep in my head. She just smiles and hugs me before I could finish. She went back to sitting down, smiling at me with an almost look of pride. You don't have to ask every year. They won't find out. I know of it. I smile as she holds my hands tight, grounding me with her words. I take a few good deep breaths before trying to match her optimistic look. You've got this, Emma. Every year you become stronger and stronger. I look down, taking her words in the wrong way, knowing every year my demon powers have become stronger. She tilts my head up, meeting my eyes but continuing. You are the strongest sister I know. You are always there for me. I think this year will be the year you control it. I smile as she does. A goofy smile stretches across her face and lights up her eyes. She stands up and pulls me up with her. Thank you, Star. I shake my head, trying to rid it of the negative thoughts to continue with the optimistic look. Come on, let's make breakfast. I turn to the door as she laughs. In your pajamas? I pause and forget I haven't even gotten ready yet. I smile and grab out some clothes for the day. It was an outfit I grew accustomed to. A purple sweater and jeans. I didn't care what shirt I wore underneath, as I never took off my sweater, so I grabbed a random blue one from my dresser and walked off to get ready. I was just starting to cook when Star had come down, dressed in her usual blue shirt and tight jeans, her hair already made up in a ponytail. Made me feel funny for just quickly brushing mine and hurrying downstairs just a few minutes earlier. I had chopped up some fruit and was waiting for the pan to heat up before pouring in some pancake mix. We took a bit too long cooking, so we snacked on some fruit and took the pancakes for lunch today. As we walk to school, we take shortcuts through alleyways we've grown up running through, finding out the quickest paths, although we still get lost every so often. Star was taking her time today, smelling every flower pot she saw, noticing the new growths of every small plant. It was starting to get on my nerves, and the anxiety grew as I started to see the time tick by. She stopped to smell another flower. It was just a dandelion, and I had enough. Starine, we're going to be late. If you don't stop it right now, so help me, I'll... I groaned, unable to think of what to say. Just hurry up already, you're so slow! I stomp away from her and down the alley. I glare back to see if she's coming, just to see her walk calmly towards me with a soft smile on her face. I felt my fists clenched, angry more at myself for snapping at her once again than slowing us down. "Sorry," I mumbled as she catches up. She just smiles at me, sticking her tongue out as she walks backwards in front of me. "It's okay. I forgive you. Besides, I am getting a little carried away. Totally not testing your patience today or anything." She skips off ahead of me, and I stand there dumbfounded for a few seconds. I was kind of angry at her, but I shook my head and just ran up to her. I could feel people's eyes on me even before I stepped through the front doors, whispers and terribly hidden pointed fingers around me. I could feel sweat beading off my forehead. I hadn't realized that Star was looking at me concerned as I stared at the ground, brushing my hair over my right eye. A trick our father taught me when he noticed I was starting to get self-conscious over it. Star put her hand on my shoulder softly as we looked over the board, which separated people into classes. I couldn't focus on any of it. The whispers around me, a few smiles from kids with an almost admiring look in their eyes, and eventually word circled quickly, hundreds of kids grouping into an area with words of a girl with abnormally bright eyes. Star squeezed my shoulder softly, gathering my attention, and once she caught my eyes, she just smiled at me. That calm, reassuring smile. I took a deep breath in and relaxed. Every year was like this so far. Some kids really liked my eyes, wanted to be closer and friendly with someone so abnormal, and they admired me. And then there were the few that thought the unnatural was wrong or bad. They thought it was weird, and never in a good way. There was a grouping of people who seemed to like me, and Star for who we were. It didn't seem like word got around just yet about my eyes to them. They were kind and matched Star's energy. Their names were Ava, Sierra, Maddie, and Cassie. Everyone stood out as the day passed. Their starting subjects made everyone realize that we were all good at different things. We said we'd always help each other out in subjects we aren't good at. It seemed to say something about everyone's personalities, too. Cassie liked math the most, and seemed to be great at jokes, too. And she was pretty good with quick thinking. Maddie was the best at science. She was super accepting of my eyes, knowing heterochromia existed, but was intrigued by the pigment side of it. I laughed when she showed her nerdy science side. Sierra was the best at ELA. She talked politely and knew some words that everyone else was stumped by. I was the best at art so far, but Sierra was a close second and gave me a run for my money when competing with her. She knew things I didn't. Star was the best in French. She always helped everyone else understand simple things without giving them the answers right away. She stopped helping me about a year ago because I just stopped trying. I couldn't seem to get into my head, but I still passed, and that was fine. Then there was Ava, who was the best at social studies and seemed to get a bit happier when they mentioned the witch trials that were going to be in the schedule later in the year. I couldn't seem to understand much about her other than she seemed to lead the group automatically. She kindly demanded authority and seemed to have a stronger demeanor than anyone else I'd met. Then, two boys stood out amongst the people who seemed to be against me. Other than the constant whispers and quiet words of others, these two kids seemed to egg on these students. And genuinely just gave me a bad feeling. These kids' names were Jason and Devin. I didn't dare confront them. I couldn't chance them knowing or even finding out. I decided to deal with the constant whispers like every other year. It was always better than putting Star in danger, or myself. The first week of school flew by. People distinguished themselves, and I was able to tell more about who was good and who was bad, and began to catch on that Devin and Jason had something against me. It made me fear for our lives. What if they found out somehow and are just waiting to strike? They started up name-calling along with some other kids. The usual names I'd gotten called in previous years. Special, different, wrong. Some kids used these words to try and power some excuse behind moving me to a different class. Some kids yelled out that I can't see, thinking my eye color affected my sight and that I just wasn't healthy. A few times I caught the smile on their face just as they called out these things, which gave me all the reason I needed to believe they just didn't want me around. I amazed Maddie with how many people didn't know about heterochromia. The others just yelled at the kids who would talk down to me or cheer me up after a head-filling day of nonsense from other kids. After an especially brutal and tiring first half of the day, as we were getting ready to head out for lunch, I finally felt the anxious, growing anger snap into sadness as Star walked with me down the hall. God, they don't know how hard it is to be me, I yell, feeling the tears build up in my eyes and flames trying to make their way into the palm of my hand. They don't know how hard it is to be nice, stay calm, just accept this bullying year after year, especially when I could destroy them all. I wouldn't even hesitate. I cry. Hysteric tears stream down my face as she hugs me. I bite my tongue as I see our friends come running across the hall by the doors. They were far enough away and they didn't hear what I said, but that didn't stop them from worrying. They saw me crying and that was enough to worry them. The pain of holding myself in my human form instead of letting this pent-up anger be expressed in better ways hurt even more than the soft burning under my skin as I held back my powers. I saw Sierra open her mouth to speak, but couldn't find the words to ask in the most polite way why I was bawling like a child. Star smiled at them, reassuring them as she rubbed my back. Don't worry, she's okay, just a bunch of pent-up anger towards the bullying. Cassie smiled at her, a soft, calm smile that didn't judge my tears as she tried to lighten the mood. Are you sure you aren't the older sister? She laughed softly, which got a smile from Star. I couldn't help but smile too. I rub my tears away and look up at them. Sometimes I don't even know. I take a good breath in, calming myself down and smiling at Star, nodding, showing her I was okay again. She pulled me along past the others before they followed and raced each other through the doors. We spent lunch outside together, talking and distracting me from things that upset me throughout the day. I calmed down and tried smiling through most of their conversations. Even if the smiles were fake, it did make me feel happy to see them happy. After school, we left a bit later than most kids. I was stuck talking to a teacher for napping in their class. They let me go with just a warning after I answered the question they asked about what they had taught today. Star was waiting patiently with an almost told-you-so look on her face. She had told me that the teacher was going to confront me about sleeping. I shrugged it off and fell asleep before I even cared enough about it. Besides, holding everything in was getting really difficult. Since we left school late, there were a lot of students leaving that we had never passed before, one of them being Ava. She had turned to greet us both at the door with a bundle of books in her bag. We walked for a little while until she turned off in her direction to go home. We chatted for a while and she wished us well. As we approached our block, we could see Jason and Devin, and if there was anything I didn't want, it was for them to know where we lived. I acted on impulse and grabbed Star's hand, tucking her into an alleyway. She glanced back at them, quickly telling me they saw us. I continue running, wishing they didn't see us, but thankfully they don't know exactly which house we could be running to. We walked through the winding alleyways until we reached our house, going in through the back door to avoid the main street. We entered the backyard and I looked up at her just to see her smiling. It's kind of fun to feel like we're being chased, because we always get away and it's such a fun adrenaline rush, she says, trying to lighten the mood. I nod softly, feeling my thoughts rush to my head. Something was burning at the surface that kept shoving it back down, saying I'm paranoid. As we reached for the handle of the door, I couldn't help but feel that this was going to be the only good time to say it. Wait, I say, a little louder than needed, making me pause and look embarrassed at the ground. She walks up to me, calmly looking me in the eyes. I need to talk to you. I start, just hoping to kickstart my thoughts into something I could word. What is it? She asked softly. Her patient and calm tone made my anxious chest soften just a bit. She pauses for a moment before walking over to our lawn chairs and waiting for me to sit down. I sit down and look up at the sky, focusing on my thoughts before closing my mind and finding the words. Do you get a bad feeling about those two kids? Yeah, I think it's too early for anyone other than our friends to know where we live, but I don't know, just tell me I'm not paranoid. She pauses and looks at the sky too. I'm not sure. They do seem to act weird. Maybe a bit rude, too. She glances at me, smiling. But we're only just getting through the first weeks of school. Yeah, I felt my body shaking slightly as I stood back up, my fists clenched in my pockets as I walked over the door. You're probably right. Let's go inside. We have homework to do, don't we? I can't shake the fear, but now there's even more weight on my chest. I totally came off as paranoid. A few hours passed and we had eaten, gotten some homework done, played games, and talked with Mom a bit before she got back to work. I sat on my bed, my thoughts circling in my head over and over. I'm paranoid. There's something different about them. I'm paranoid. There's something... My thoughts are cut short as Star enters the room and flops down on her bed, smiling and looking over at me. Her smile was quickly gone when she noticed my face. My brows still furrowed in frustration as I try and calm my nerves. I noticed her gaze and forced a weak smile as I waved my hand. Maybe I am just paranoid, right? She sits up, sighing softly as she sits on my bed. I sit up and tuck my knees to my chest, looking away from her. I mean, they aren't any different from the other bullies we've had. I mumble. But something is wrong. Something feels off about them. She puts her hand on my knee. I groan and close my eyes. I could hear her shift and grab something, but I just wanted my thoughts to stop swimming and drowning out everything else. Something in me screamed that they aren't good, but the rest of me saying I'm just being irrational. It's nothing new. We'll get through it like every other year. Emma, she starts. I glance up at her as she meets my gaze. It's gonna be okay. I roll my eyes and stare back at the wall. I know what you're feeling. I understand you're scared. Scared? I scoff quietly. Terrified is more like it. I glare at a spot on the wall to avoid glaring at her. I didn't want her to think I was angry at her. I was only angry at myself. Every year, my thoughts in this stupid demon get stronger. I mumble under my breath before she continues. I know you think people are going to find out, that you'll be hunted down and unable to show people that you are good. My head feels like it heard an echo, those words sounding so familiar in some sort of way. Unable to continue what Dad wanted to show everyone as well. You want to show everyone that demons can be good, just like he was, but you're scared that this demon side of you won't be able to control. She pauses for a moment. I glance up at her. I couldn't hide the sadness in my eyes as she smiled at me softly. I don't know why you think you won't be able to control it. Yeah, you are the strongest person I know, but you are also the strongest person I could ever think of. I tilt my head at her, my throat feeling too tight to question her verbally. You are strong, having a demon inside you, making you tough, and almost indestructible. I roll my eyes as she laughs. A soft pause before she continues speaking. But you are also strong emotionally, to hold back so much anger that forcefully builds itself up to protect you. Being able to hold back emotions and forceful anger towards others. To combat yourself day after day, coming out on top. Yeah. We both know it's not every day I come out on top. You've seen days where I run off just to let my anger away from everyone, and out of the town. She smiles and rolls her eyes at my words. Yeah, but that's once in a blue moon, and you've been doing that so much less. You've gotten so much stronger in all the right ways, Emma. I feel tears forming under my eyelids as I close my eyes, smiling softly. How do you always know the right words to say, or even what I'm feeling? I ask, laughing weakly and looking up at her. A tear streamed its way down my cheek as I opened my eyes. She shrugs and closes a small book beside her. I have my secrets. She laughs and stands up, turning towards me. Her hand that was still holding the book was now closest to me. That book was my diary. Hey! I yell, noticing why those words seemed so familiar. She flinched, looking at me before looking at her hand and holding the diary in plain sight. I may let you read it, but don't use my words against me. I stumble to grab it from her hand before she jumps back, laughing and putting it behind her. Whoops, I guess that cat's out of the bag now. She laughs and runs to the other side of the room as I jump off my bed, chasing after her, laughing just as loud as I wipe the tears from off my face. After a bit of excitement, I had taken a moment to breathe and looked out the window to the stars that littered this night sky. "So, when are we gonna get those star stickers?" Star says, smiling and glancing up at our roof. "Who knows? Eventually, but when we do, I think I'd go for less night flies." I looked at her, smiling. "You stay out too late anyway. You're lucky those wings are dark enough to hide you when you fly." I roll my eyes as she crawls onto her bed. I take another good look at the stars outside before crawling into mine. "I don't think I stay out long enough. Maybe I should go out till sunrise one day," I said jokingly. She rolls her eyes and shakes her head. "Yeah, sure. Just don't get caught," she mumbled softly.